It was the 11th of April 1985. Albania's longtime communist leader Enver Hoxha had died, bringing his 4-decade-long tenure to a close. Albania in those 40 years resembled Stalin's Soviet Union. Although Hoxha's rule did bring significant improvements to the country, it also resulted in international isolation and severe repression. But things could not continue this way for much longer. Hoxha was succeeded by a communist politician named Ramiz Alia, whose leader to the deceased leader did not blind him to the problems faced by his compatriots. This was similar to what was occurring in Moscow. Just a month prior, in March 1985, the Soviet Union witnessed the rise of a young reformer who went by the name of Mikhail Gorbachev. In contrast to the previous 20 years of gerontocratic rule. However, unlike Gorbachev, Ramiz Alia was far more cautious. While ostensibly remaining committed to the ideals of Hoxha in public, the government began to slowly build ties with the West and initiate political and economic reform. However, Ramiz Alia was no Gorbachev. While launching these slow reforms, he also continued to imprison dissidents, showing that the state remained committed to Hoxha's ideals. Nevertheless, the world would not remain static. News of revolutions occurring in Eastern Europe largely went ignored in Albania. However, it was the violent December 1989 Romanian Revolution that rudely woke Ramiz Alia and the rest of the leadership in Tirana to the urgency of the situation. Why wouldn't it? Albania's political and economic situation was far similar to Romania's than it was to any of the other Eastern European states. Who was to say that a future revolution would not claim the life of Ramiz Alia? Then in 1990, Albania stormed several foreign embassies, eventually resulting in the government permitting them to leave the country. This was a significant event, indicating that the Albanian nation was hungry for real change. Then in December, Ramiz Alia brought an end to the one-party system in place, paving the road for democracy. Although the communists won the 1991 parliamentary elections, they were soundly defeated in the parliamentary elections held the following year. Ramiz Alia then resigned from the presidency, with the opposition Democratic Party electing Dr. Sali Berisha as his successor. This marked the fall of the last communist state on the European continent. It was the dawn of a new era. A liberal democratic state rooted in capitalist economics was to emerge from the ruins that remained of Hoxha's communist state. The person who took on the mantle of transforming Albania was Dr. Sali Berisha. However, the situation would not be as rosy as expected. The new president began to accumulate personal power as the country began to fall into the abyss of corruption and lawlessness. The state was struggling to exert control as the porous northern borders became a hotbed for smuggling, primarily into Yugoslavia. In the eyes of many Albanians, Berisha was an utter disappointment. However, the United States and Europe were unwavering in their support for his government, praising the ruling party for its economic measures, which reined in inflation and increased economic growth. International financial institutions also lavishly praised Albania, calling it a model for other post communist states. However, the supposed economic success was a mirage. The post 1992 Albanian economy was built on four key factors: remittances from Albanians abroad, foreign aid, illegal smuggling of goods into Yugoslavia, and most importantly, pyramid schemes. But why pyramid schemes? With the mainstream banking system crumbling after 1992, Albanians turned to companies which that operated as de facto banks. These companies offered high interest rates on investments, luring many into investing in them. Although many feared them to be pyramid schemes, the government was hesitant to act against them, fearing any action would be extremely unpopular among Albanians. In the second half of 1996, the companies further increased their interest rates on investments to astronomical levels. If you were thinking this was a bubble waiting to burst, you would be correct. In the early months of 1992, several of these pyramid schemes collapsed, devastating the savings of most Albanians. Angered over being defrauded, the investors protested against the government, as many believed them to be blamed for the crisis. These demonstrations further escalated into violence, threatening Berisha's power. To say that the people were furious would be an understatement. The city of Vlora became the center of the revolt, with its citizens arming themselves in February 1997. In response, Berisha agreed to the resignation of the Prime Minister. However, a state of emergency was also declared. While the country was on the brink of civil war, the parliament re-elected Berisha to a second term in office. The south was largely under rebel control, and after a failed attempt at peace, the country entered a state of lawlessness. Gangs were now the real rulers of Albania, not Sali Berisha, whose authority was effectively limited to the capital, Tirana. This created a steady stream of refugees, especially to Italy. The Italian government was concerned about the crisis in Albania and seek to decrease the flow of refugees. This led to the Otranto tragedy in March 1997. As the international community increasingly became concerned about Albania, Italy spearheaded a multinational peacekeeping operation called Operation Alba. As the peacekeepers started to restore order starting from April 1997, the government then focused on holding a parliamentary election simultaneously with a referendum on restoring the Albanian monarchy. Although Albania chose to remain a republic, the elections handed Berisha and the Democratic Party a decisive defeat. In their place, the Socialist Party, successors to the previous Communist Party, formed a government. Berisha handed in his resignation, and Socialist Party leader Recep Meidiani became the new president. By August, foreign troops withdrew from the country. Thus, the civil war came to an end, with the former communists back in power, just after a 6-year hiatus. Thank you for watching the video. If you wish to watch something related to communism, you can click on the video on the left, which is about the role of vodka in the fall of the USSR. But if you wish to watch something else, you can click on the video on the right, which is about the Turkish War of Independence.